Hi, everyone, and welcome. This is Tom Stone. I'm going to be presenting tonight about what's called the wisdom system. And so I'm just going to fire up a PowerPoint that I created for this using the screen share, and we'll get going. This is a presentation about something called the wisdom system, and it's a special program to get well and stay well that really works. So the question is, do you have a health problem that seems like it just won't go away? Or you certainly probably know people who have that kind of situation. You've probably spent a lot of money on all kinds of treatments, but the problem is very stubborn and just won't go away. Now, why is that? Traditional medicine is quite often designed to just suppress symptoms with drugs and other allopathic therapies. But even holistic treatments don't address the real basis of the problem, often don't, and so they don't solve it. So, is there even an answer? Fortunately, there is. Several brilliant natural medicine doctors in Europe studied this problem for a long time, and they discovered some very interesting insights into what's really happening. In particular, there's one of them, a pathologist in Austria named Alfred Pissinger, and he discovered that the connective tissue is the place where all of the regulating of basic functions of the body takes place. Here's a chart that shows the concept. So let me explain about this chart. You see a bunch of stuff. It's kind of a drawing here, but what's happening is that those things that look like fried eggs in it, those are actually organ cells. And this this thing on the right that has little sharp, jabby things going down into the middle, and it has some black dots in it. This is what's called a lymphatic vessel. And this is what removes the waste products from the metabolizing of things by the cells. And you can see the black dot lines that are going over toward it, and it's kind of taking that stuff in. Now the big line down the middle with the arrow and the dots in it, and then some sort of opening in it in the middle, this is representative of a capillary, fine blood vessel that's carrying nutrients and oxygen into the connective tissue. And down at the bottom, you can see a kind of spidery like thing that has little tentacles going out all over the place. This is a nerve cell, the fine endings of a nerve cell, and it's bringing energy into the picture. And you can also see that there are little pockets of black dots here and there, a couple of them up at the top, one down in the lower right. And these are deposits of toxins that have been purposely put into the connective tissue because it's safer to keep them in the connective tissue than to let them get into the organ cells. Now, one of the things you'll notice if you look at this closely is that none of the systems that are serving the cells, the nutrients, the oxygen, the energy, the waste removal, none of them are in direct contact with the cells. Everything is moving through the connective tissue. And so the connective tissue, which is everywhere in the body, it's kind of like the biggest organ in the body. Now, it's been thought that the connective tissue is just this soupy stuff that things sit in, but it's actually very dynamic. It's the place, it's kind of the warehousing system of the body where toxins and pathogens can be put in a relatively safe or safer position. So, what Pissinger discovered was that the cells detoxify via the blood and they detoxify via the lymph. And the cell supply pathway is basically that all the systems that serve the cells feed what they're feeding to the cells through the connective tissue. So it's a fascinating concept. And this is what Pissinger discovered. Now, what happened was that the naturopathic practitioners in Germany particularly, but also in Switzerland, Austria, the Netherlands, other European countries. What Pissinger discovered was that none of the systems that serve the cells, as I mentioned, that bring the oxygen, nutrients, energy, and remove the waste, none of them are in direct contact with the cells. Everything moves through the connective tissue, and the connective tissue is the place where the body stores the toxins and pathogens. This happens when the toxic load is just too much for the body and it can't get this stuff out. Not a pretty picture. So there are very specific treatments that need to be done in the right order to get all of this garbage out of the connective tissue and out of the body. I'll be giving you the overview of how this works in this presentation, and then you get the details as we go through the classes, assuming you want to join the program. So there's a 10-step protocol. I'm just going to review that. The first step is we take a health history, and that includes you filling out a rather lengthy questionnaire that asks you all about your health history, what vaccinations you've had, what diseases you've had, what your current complaints are, and so forth. And then we have a meeting, and in that meeting, I ask a bunch of questions. You get to ask some questions too if you want, but we take the time to really explore what's the full picture of the history of your health. And on the basis of that, we can determine which toxins and pathogens are stored in the connective tissue and what's the best way to drive them out. The second step is to remove what are called therapy blocks. Therapy blocks mean things that get in the way of your body being able to take a treatment and actually utilize the benefit of it to begin the process of cleaning up the connective tissue. The third step is allergy debugging. Now, there are so much allergies all over the world, but in Germany and other countries where this work is done, there are clinics that do nothing but allergy treatment, and they're booked weeks in advance, and people are getting absolutely fabulous results. The fourth step is to debug the problems with the intestines. The intestines are where about 80% of our immune system lives, and about 80% of where our problems tend to originate. And so there's a whole series of things that can be done to remove what's called lymphadenitis. Lymphadenitis is the infection of the lymph of the large intestine. And if you have lymphadenitis, you basically can't detoxify. So in step 4, we make sure to get rid of the lymphadenitis, also in step 5 if that's needed. And then in step 5, we also debug parasites, mold, and fungus. All of these things are detriments to the large intestine's functioning. In step 6, we debug using body secretions. Now, what that means is if we were doing this in Europe, we would actually take the body secretion like blood, urine, saliva, whatever, and we'd put it in a little vial and put that in the input of a device called a bioresonance device that can invert and cancel out the energy of these things, just like a noise canceling headset does. But instead of canceling out environmental noise, these devices called bioresonance devices can pick up electromagnetic field noise, we could say, from the body, the noise of these different toxins and pathogens. Can also pick it up from special ampules that are imprinted with that. I'll show you a picture of that in just a little bit. And the energy that's in the body stored in these substances in the connective tissue, like the lymphadenitis, this gets inverted and canceled out, it's weakened. Now, that stimulates the immune system to start to get things out of the body. But in the 7th step, we go even further by debugging, which means to invert and cancel out the environmental toxins, bacteria, viruses, all the kind of stuff that may not get out based on the body secretion treatments. The body secretion stuff typically will get about half of the toxins out of the connective tissue. But then there are other ones that are more tenacious that actually require more specific targeted inversions of the waveforms. And we have a special way to do that with something called waveform optimizing, which I'm going to show you in a little bit. Then the eighth step is we debug, meaning to cancel out any residual effects from childhood illnesses that are still sort of hanging around, any influence of vaccinations, and inherited stresses called miasms. So these are like the deepest, oldest stresses. And the way they work in Europe is they have test kits that have ampules in them that are imprinted with all this stuff. But we have a way of doing it without having to have the ampules. If we had to buy all the test kits for the ampules, it's like $20,000-$30,000 or euros. It's very expensive. Plus, you have to have a machine to work with to do that. So, in that people who are joining a program like this don't have any of that, and certainly don't want to spend that kind of money, and don't want to spend the kind of money it would take to go to Europe, like as a quote, sort of health vacation, and work with the people over there who know how to do this. I mean, just to go there and stay there for some months while this happens, and not to mention the actual treatment costs and so forth. It's going to be very expensive, fun, but very expensive. So the next step, the ninth step, is to provide a high potency homeopathic remedy. And this is also something we can do with the waveform optimizing. We don't have to go out and look around and try and buy the homeopathic remedy, because we can create the energy pattern of any homeopathic remedy at any potency using this wonderful waveform optimizing, which again, I'm going to show you in a little bit. And then the 10th step is to have a 6-month follow-up kind of checkup appointment and see that you're really maintaining not only the solution to the original challenging problem you had, but you're not getting more such problems, because you've got the organs of elimination open and working. Your body can in fact keep them open and working. And so the 6-month follow-up is to make sure that everything's in good shape. So this is why it's a lengthy program. When you're going through the body secretion stuff, there's a period of time where you do that, where it may take several weeks before you do the next secretion. And during that time, and I think I've mentioned it later in the PowerPoint, that's a good time for us to work on the traumas and the emotional pain that are oftentimes some of the blockages that prevent the body from being able to get the toxins out of it. So if you'd like to get ahead of the game and read about how it works, the 10-step protocol of the Wisdom System, see a sample treatment plan, and the registration options, you can get access to all those web pages starting on the Wisdom System first page, which is here. And if you want to copy down that tiny URL, that's the starting page of all the information on our website about the Wisdom System. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the screen share for a moment and paste that URL, which I have on my notes page. I'm going to paste it into, hold on a sec. Here we go. Here's the payment options. Yeah, here's the URL for the Wisdom System starting page. And at the bottom of that page, it has links to all the stuff I was just mentioning: the 10-step protocol, sample treatment plan, the registration options, and so forth. So I'm going to drop this into the chat section so you can just copy it and put it down someplace. Okay, got that? That tiny URL will take you to the Wisdom System starting page. Okay. All right. So coming back to the screen share and the PowerPoint, people would ask, well, does it take a year to get rid of my stubborn health problem? And the answer is no. The answer is that usually whatever the old stubborn problem is will be gone somewhere in the first months of the program, sometimes even in the first weeks. It depends on what it is and what are the things sort of locking it in place and keeping it from being resolved. So remember that this is a program to get well and stay well. And we want to make sure that you stay well. We need to go much further than just getting rid of whatever is causing your initial problem. We want the body to get really good at detoxifying itself and be able to repair anything that could get in the way of that happening easily. So, this is the most comprehensive system of cleaning up the real causes of chronic illness that I've ever seen and maximizing the ability to prevent more of them from developing. So, it's not just getting rid of your main problem, it's setting it up so you don't get more of those kind of problems, whether the same one or different ones. During this step that we're using the energy patterns of the body secretions, this is what I mentioned before, there may be some weeks needed by the body to clean out all the toxins that this technique helps the body to get rid of. During those weeks, we'll do special sessions to resolve the emotional stress and traumas that are common underlying reasons for the blocking of the body's ability to self-heal. And you'll be amazed at those. I mean, we can get rid of trauma like nobody's business because back in 1993, I had a bizarre experience of a deranged stranger coming to my front door and pulling out a 44 caliber handgun and shooting me through the decorative glass in the door, shooting me in the chest. And it's a complete miracle it didn't kill me. I mean, a 44 is a big gun. Hunters use them for killing bears. And so it was totally amazing. It didn't kill me. I was leaning over to kind of slam and lock the door, and I must have been at just the right angle because the bullet hit the lower edge of a rib and went down through the diaphragm, right between the two lobes of the liver, through the psoas muscle, hit the pelvic bone, and lodged back behind the fifth lumbar, just a little ways from my spine. So just missing major nerves and arteries on the way down. So they're a complete miracle it didn't kill me. We want to make sure that your system is working better than it has been in your whole life. In Europe, the natural medicine practitioners there are called Heilpraktiker, means healing practitioner. And they typically use a device called a bioresonance device. One such device is called a quantum energy optimizer. So one such device is called the quantum energy optimizer, and we have this made for us specifically, have been for some time, and it looks like this. And you can see the metal tray at the top. This is where these ampules, test kit ampules, are placed so that the machine can pick them up and read their energy, then electronically invert it and send it to the body. Now, the earlier versions of this had a bunch more knobs on the front, but we took them off and we put all of that in software. So now we just have the on-off switch in the front and some connections on the back. So they also use ampules that are organized into what are called test kits. And here's an example. You can see these small vials, and the little thing that the person is holding is something with a metal end on it. We can read the energy pattern that's been imprinted into special fluids that are in the ampules. So the way it works in Europe is you have a device. You can see there's kind of one in the background at the top right there, and can't see much of it. But the Bicom, that was something that I used to import long ago before we had our own machine. We're gonna move on now. We know from physics that matter is really made up of fast-moving patterns of energy. And here's something that looks physical, but you can see the electromagnetic field radiating out from it. Kind of a cool picture. So these patterns of energy are imprinted into the fluids in the ampules in the test kits. And we also know from ancient Vedic science that everything is really patterns of vibrating consciousness. I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you that this is true by taking you through a simple exercise called the wholeness technique. And I think you'll like this. This will be something you can participate in and have the experience. And this will actually give you the direct experience that everything in the universe is just patterns of vibrating awareness or vibrating consciousness. You up for that? I'm going to assume yes, because everyone's on mute.
Woo! Yes.
Okay, cool. Great. Okay. So it's best to do this with your eyes closed. So if you just sit comfortably and close your eyes, what you'll experience is you can feel your body sitting wherever you're sitting. You can hear sounds, of course, like the sound of my voice and other sounds. And the principal other thing you'll experience is you'll have thoughts going through your mind, plenty of them. And these thoughts are occurring in a background of silence. That silence is your awareness. It's always there. It's this sort of silent, empty, expansive quietness, and your thoughts occur in it. If the background was noisy, you wouldn't be able to hear them. So thank goodness it's not. It's a quiet, silent background, and your thoughts occur in it. And this allows you to experience them as well as your perceptions, like when you see things with your eyes open. So with your eyes closed, go ahead and allow yourself to notice the thoughts coming and going, and look off to the side of each thought as it comes, and notice that background of kind of empty, silent expansiveness. And you won't stay in the silence for long because another thought will come along and interrupt it. And that's okay because we're not trying to get rid of thoughts. We're simply allowing ourselves to experience the environment in which thoughts occur. That environment is your awareness. It's what we use to experience everything. So each time a new thought comes, look off to the side, notice the quietness again. And gradually, the sense of the presence of that quiet, empty, expansive feeling will become more and more present in your awareness. Now, we do this in order to create a situation where there's enough of that silence, enough of that quietness, that we can then tell the body to show us the energy pattern, the sensation of the energy pattern that we're looking for. Now, there are two kinds of techniques. There's an in technique and an out technique. We'll get to that later. But when you look off to the side of the thought, you're experiencing that quietness of your own awareness. And each time you do that, as I mentioned, the sense of awareness being present gets more and more. But you also find that the energy of the thoughts that you're experiencing becomes a little bit less intense as you allow yourself to just notice them. So, what I'd like you to do is to notice that that quiet, silent feeling is kind of filling up your head. We tend to associate it with thoughts, and we tend to think of thoughts as associated with our brain. So it's quite natural to and easy to get a sense that that quietness is sort of filling up your whole head. And if you allow yourself to notice it, you'll notice that it's not limited to just your head, that the quietness is actually there, filling up your entire body. It's already there. It's just a matter of noticing that it's there. And it turns out that it's not limited to your body. It's actually there, present throughout the entire room that you're in. And it turns out that the presence of that expansive awareness and quietness is not just limited to the room that you're in, but it's permeating the entire building that you're in. And in fact, way more than that, it's permeating the whole area, the city, the state, even the country or continent that you're in is entirely permeated by that awareness. And if you allow yourself to, you can kind of sense the presence of that at all those levels. And it's there throughout the entire planet. If you allow yourself to, you can feel and sense the presence of that expansive quietness permeating the entire planet. And if we keep going, you can sense it as permeating the sun, all the other planets, and all the other space in between the planets, all the comets, all the cosmic dust, everything. And so, as you allow yourself to feel that throughout the entire solar system, you can continue to expand your awareness of awareness by noticing that it's filling up the whole galaxy and even the clusters of galaxies and the entire universe. And beyond that, there's nothing but pure awareness. So as you go outside the physical universe, you get into a state where you're just experiencing the unmanifest aspect of pure awareness, where it's not formulated into some galaxy or star or dust or pattern of any kind. It's just pure awareness itself in its unmanifest state. And if you go deep into that quietness, you'll notice that there's just a kind of limitless to it. It just goes on forever. And now if you look back at your body, you can notice your body without losing the sense of that great expanded awareness that's there, filling up the whole universe and beyond. And so bring your awareness back to your body, and then very slowly, gradually open your eyes and look at some object in the room. And notice that that object, you can sense the presence of that lively, pure awareness permeating that object. And if you look around and look at various other objects, you can kind of sense the presence of the pure awareness permeating everything. If you can see another person, either on the Zoom or live, then you can also sense that the pure awareness is permeating them. You are that expansive, silent, pure awareness, and everything that exists is just a pattern of that vibrating pure awareness. Kind of cool, huh?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. So that particular technique is described in an app that you're going to get access to when you get involved with what's called the Freedom Practice, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Okay, somebody said the link isn't working, so let me go get the actual page link. Hold on. So what we want is treatment options, registration options for the wisdom system. Here we go. This should work. Option 1, payment plan. Option, we have 2 different payment plans. So this page should get you where we need to go. And I'm going to put this now into the chat. So check that out and see if that works. So now you have access to that. Now, before I got involved with these bioresonance devices, which was actually way back in about 1997, I started going to Europe to study them and learn about them and get some of these test kits and all that. Before that, I had taken a music. I was a student at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, and I was studying composition and classical guitar. And I'd been taking classical guitar lessons there for some time, even while I was finishing high school. And so I took this class on on musical acoustics, and I became just fascinated with it. And so I went out and I bought every book I could find on that topic, and I read them all, and I just became completely enthralled with it, particularly the concept of wave interference, of being able to cancel out or strengthen waves. And so I went out and bought an inexpensive guitar, and I took it to a guitar maker, and I had him remove the old fingerboard and put a new one on with a 16 note scale that had the relationships between the 16th and 32nd harmonics. And this gave me a new adapted or modified guitar with which I could play the actual pure harmonic relationships with. So I developed a notation system. I wrote a bunch of music with it. I've got a recording that I'll be putting out soon that you'll love to hear of two different instruments I created with that system. One is called the Sharmacord, the other one's called the Lila. And I'm going to send out one of the tracks from my album of stuff that I created with that. And then if you're interested, you can get the whole album. So that'll be coming soon. So I also developed this method of what I call waveform optimizing, because what happened was after I got shot and I got home from the hospital, I moved to a smaller place and I got a bad cold. And I'd been thinking about the concept of having a cold, and I thought, okay, there must be some virus causing the cold. What if I created the energy pattern of the inversion of the mirror image of the virus and then sent that energy just through my intention into the body and canceled out the energy of the virus? What would happen? So I made the first crude version of this waveform optimizing, and I did it on myself. And it was amazing that about a half hour later, I didn't feel sick anymore. It was like the cold was basically gone. So I thought, okay, I'm onto something here. So I developed it further, and I had a friend who was a mathematician, and I had him build a spreadsheet where we could actually graph the form of the waves so we could see them. And that was very cool. Now, that got lost on some earlier computer a long time ago, but about a year, 2 years ago, I had another mathematician that I hired from one of these freelancer sites where you can rent a freelancer. I had him develop a version of this that allowed me to be able to create these waveforms by using muscle testing to identify the pattern of amplitudes of the frequency of something. So I'm going to show you this now. It's a special process of finding the exact pattern of vibrating awareness of basically anything. This is just this is not from that system. This is just to show that when you have a bunch of waves, they that are in the same phase relationship, it's called. They're like the harmonics of an instrument. When you play a note on the piano, or the trumpet, or the clarinet, or the guitar, the fundamental frequency, which is this first one at the top, that stays the same. But the amplitude of the different harmonics, which are what are represented here, they add together and they form a composite waveform that's the sum of the energies of all those put together. Now, this is just to show the concept. If we go over here, this is actually a picture of the actual output from this new version of the waveform optimizing spreadsheet that I had created. We can see over here on the left under the word frequency, let's go back. 869.3, that's the number of cycles per second of the particular wave that we're looking for, which is we're going to upgrade what's called the metal element. The 5-element system of Chinese medicine is integrated into this model too. So you can see at the top here an orange waveform line. And down below it, you can see there's a black line that's the perfect mirror image of that. So if we were wanting to cancel something, which in this case we're not, we're actually upgrading it, if we were going to cancel something, we'd find the energy of that which we want to cancel. That would be represented up here at the top. And then the program calculates the perfect mirror image of it. And you can see that this is, in fact, the perfect mirror image of it. But in this case, we wouldn't use the black lines waveform. We would use just the orange one and layer it on itself to build it up and make it stronger. Okay. So this process allows us to find the specific pattern of energy of anything in your body, and you'll learn a simple process of teaching your body how to cancel out the energy or optimize the energy by strengthening it of whatever it is that we're working on. That you're going to learn during the class. So the method of canceling or strengthening the energy of whatever we're going to work on is something you'll learn in the class, and then you'll be able to apply it to the things we're working on in the class and other things. Now, this is a precious skill that you'll be able to use with many things in your life, and learning this alone will be well worth the cost of taking this program. This is what is making it possible for us to do this program online for a fraction of the cost of going to Europe and have it done with the devices and test kits and sessions over there. Not to mention the travel and lodging and food and everything. You have to stay there for some months. So we've done literally hundreds of waveform optimizings online with amazing results. So we already have lots of experience that it works very well to do it in this way. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the science of mind over matter. There was a study done on orthoscopic knee surgery. There's about 640,000 of these surgeries done every year. And they did a study to determine what's really going on with it. And the conclusion that they came to was that this controlled trial involving patients with osteoarthritis of the knee, the outcomes after these two traditional surgical procedures were no better than those after a placebo procedure. What they did for the placebo is they just made these little slits in the skin of the knee, so it looked like they went in with this, tool pack to scrape out the junk in the knee, but they didn't actually go in. For the people who had the placebo, all they got was these little slits in the skin. So placebo means healing by intention or belief. And in summary, it actually works. They had 100% success with the placebo. 2 years later, the people who had the placebo treatment still had no pain. That's quite remarkable. So any questions up to this point? I'm going to stop the screen share and see if anybody wants to ask any questions.
I just wondered whether the addition of the Chinese elements, because I love that aspect, and the shiatsu as well. I love the Japanese with the hands and the fingers and stuff like that. Is that done in the European center and their methodology, or is that something you've added yourself?
Well, the Europeans, the Germans, are actually very fond of the Chinese medicine. And in fact, of those test kits, there's one of them that's in fact a 5-element test kit. And it's got ampules for the elements, and it's got ampules for each of the meridians and many of the meridian functions underneath in a column underneath a particular element there. And then there's an entire test kit for the details of the organs and systems functions within each element. So yeah, the Germans are really into this. And the guy who develops these test kits is totally into it. So yeah, it's quite integrated in. And we have it integrated into the waveform optimizing as well, so that we have a place where, let me see if I can show you. Yeah, I can show you. So if we go, let me go back to screen share so you can see what I'm doing. Here's one I did on myself. It was about strengthening the energy that makes walking really stable and strong. And if we look at the 5-element picture, it's a little more complicated here. The wood element is the one that's the most out. And the fat metabolism, which is down here, this is the one that's the most stressed meridian. In electroacupuncture, they're actually all 12 meridians are present. In traditional Chinese medicine, normally there are 8 meridians that are called the strange flows, which the ancient Chinese people didn't figure out. But the guy who created electroacupuncture figured them out by doing lots of testing. So in any case, the fat metabolism is getting energy from the liver, from the joints, from the gallbladder. These are all giving.
We can't see the one.
Okay.
Yeah, it just went up to liver. The other ones weren't uploading.
Okay.
That's good. Yeah, thanks.
You can see it now. Great. Yeah, thanks for telling me because I can't tell what you guys can see or not. So yeah, this is the wood element. The fat metabolism is the most stressed or decompensated energy. And then the liver, the joints, and the gallbladder are all feeding energy to it. So this is a wonderful method because we can see where the energy is and what it's affecting. So this is all incorporated into the plan. If we look back over here, we can see here's the third reaction level, which is the meridian level. And here's the fat metabolism. This is transferred over from the other tab.
This is tremendous. I just yeah, I can't really put it into words how what's the word? Kind of how synchronistic this is. The things that I've the things it's incorporating. I suppose it's just going to the core of the source knowledge.
That's great. I'm glad you're enjoying it. It's a long time in developing and it keeps evolving. I keep adding stuff like this one for coherence. You're familiar with the concept of coherence from waveform optimizing or from wave theory, wave interference. It's how lasers are created, right? You layer the one waveform on top of the other and they add up to one huge wave. And that's why certain lasers can cut through metal and stuff like that. So if we put yes in that square to the right of it, that means we're utilizing that principle. This one called depth, I won't teach you this whole thing because this class is not about that, but this number, the depth one, oh, Tracy's joining us, great. So this one, the 4944, this is the potency level, meaning the titration or the shaking up of the stuff. This is if we did that almost 5,000 times, 4,944 times, where you take a drop, put it in a vial of free water alcohol, and you shake it up, and you just keep doing that. It becomes increasingly powerful the more you do that. So that whole principle has been incorporated into this. There's a lot of really quite cool stuff in here, and we have a whole course where you can learn how to become a waveform optimizing expert, and we can talk about that another time. Cool. Okay.
Yeah, I think I want to come on your music theory course as well.
Okay, fantastic. Great to meet you. I'm sure glad you could join the class. This is great. Okay, so I'm going to come back to the PowerPoint. Any other questions? We're good on questions. I can stop the screen share, take a look. Hey, Tracy, welcome.
Yeah, I don't know if you just mean questions up till now or whether there'll be ones at the end, because the other two were just that, is this recording available? Because I wish I'd brought my friend colleague on this because I wasn't sure what to expect. So and I didn't want to put her out. She's 77. She's just got out of prison after 4.5 years exposing satanic ritual, paedophile gangs as a cover up. She's 77. I didn't want to put her out until I'd known what this was about. But she got exported to Germany when she got released from prison earlier last year. Yeah. But the other question was, I'd love to please do share that information about your music, because I've been looking at setting a MIDI keyboard up with the pure tonation, intonation stuff as well.
Cool. Well, we can have a chat about that. If you want to have a little private Zoom call where we can talk about these things, I'd be delighted.
Oh wow, yeah.
So yeah, so this call is being recorded, and it is my plan to put it up on my YouTube channel and also make it available. I'll mention it through an email to the list, my list. But yeah, that's great. Let's go down that path and see what happens. Sounds wonderful. Okay, so let's see. Any other questions regarding your first question about what was your first question about the music?
The recording of the actual this thing that to show somebody who else might want to come on the because it was the the knee surgery thing because I've been showing her how she doesn't need to go for the knee surgery so that and just and she's the one who taught me about shiatsu the Japanese and the
Cool.
meridians and stuff like that. So
Oh, cool, cool, great. Yeah. Share it with anybody who you feel could use it, which is basically everybody.
yeah.
Because if people don't have a problem yet, it's only a matter of time before the toxins accumulate or something's blocked. It's like they have to do things in a careful, systematic, procedural way. And you kind of know that from what you've been doing. But if you try to flush the toilet when the sewer's backed up, it's not a pretty sight. You can create some real
Oh, awesome
problems.
analogy.
Yeah.
Awesome analogy. Yeah.
You can create some real problems for yourself. So we want to avoid that. And this beautiful 10-step protocol is developed by one of the top naturopaths in Germany, who's become a good friend of mine over the years, Martin Keimer. He brilliantly, he's the one who designed that 5-element test kit and all the detailed element test kits underneath it. He's also got test kits for viruses, mold, toxins, environmental toxins, pharmaceutical toxins, parasites, everything, and special procedures. Got a special procedure for getting rid of viruses that's amazingly cool. You have to kind of coax them out of hiding. There's a special way to do that. So, anyway, we're going to be using a lot of that stuff because I've been doing this work since about 1997, which is what, 25, at least 25 years. And I had a cancer clinic in Tijuana, Mexico, where I treated people, and I had about 6 clients who got completely well, got rid of their cancer completely. And in fact, one of them, I was living in Olympia, Washington, until I came to India, which was just a few months back. And just a few months before I left, one of my early cancer patients from back in 1999, 2000, from Oregon, Ashland, Oregon, I think, she came to visit me, and she's been cancer-free for 25 years.
And this perfectly relates to the question that Emily's just typed in the chat as well. Then, because I'm interested in that, and be a good example was so when these cancer. So she's right. When people experience this, what do people tend to notice changing first, and then second, etc. Emotional changes first, then physical changes. So I imagine that these cancer, because I believe, I won't go on what I believe about the cancer, but it's a very much an emotional.
Sure.
Blockage.
Sure.
Yeah. So what do they experience first? The physical healing, or are they simultaneously getting the emotional kind of revelations at the same time and stuff like that?
It's a good question, and it isn't a set system like that. It's more like this 10-step protocol. It's like during the time where we do the secretion therapies, using the energy patterns of the blood or saliva or whatever, which we'll use with waveform optimizing. We won't actually use the substance, right? But we can use those things, and when we use them, it sets off a detoxification cycle in the body that takes sometimes weeks to accomplish. And you don't want to interrupt that while that's going on. Right. So what we do during that time is we do work on the traumas and emotional pain that are also contributing factors to why that stuff is there in the first place. So it's a pretty individualized thing, but there is a systematic protocol and procedure, and that makes it possible to both individualize stuff, but also kind of keep a group or a class moving through the different stages of the program.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so let's come back to the PPT.
I have a question, actually.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I'm curious, while you're going through the 10-step the 10 steps, are there requirements for lifestyle changes? So do you need to eat certain things? Do you need to do certain things while you're going through the 10 steps?
It's really a great question, and it turns out that my friend that I'm staying with in India, who's one of the top Vedic astrologers on the planet, it turns out to be an expert in this whole topic of what to eat, how to do interim fasting properly, all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to have him give some classes during this whole course where he's going to guide people, and his wife can do the cooking, and he can, have video of it and show how she does it. And there's all kinds of stuff of sprouts, different kind of sprouts that they do, and different kinds of foods that are prepared. And the whole interim fasting concept is a important thing, because what you want to do is give the body a chance to have the whole digestive process rest, so that the system can actually have some time to repair itself. So the answer to your question is yes, there'll be guidance regarding diet, even exercise, things like that. So yeah, it's pretty
And Tom, it's individualized, right? Because I
Yeah.
know you had mentioned that because it will be different for each of us, but we will get the guidance on that.
Absolutely. So some of the guidance regarding the interim fasting and some of that kind of stuff will be more generic and more applicable to everybody. But there's specifics regarding the process of, for example, getting rid of the dysbacteria that cause problems in the large intestine. And most people who have a problem with it have what's called lymphadenitis, which is the infection of the lymph. And if you have that, you can't detoxify. It's just like the lymph won't allow the detoxification to occur. So when we're working on the intestines, if that tests, that's one of the first things typically we'll do, is to get rid of that particular problem. So it's both individualized, and we have a system. And with this waveform optimizing, this is making it possible to do this online, and people can participate from anywhere, which is like super cool. All right.
Yeah, there's this concept of Pitta, Vata, and Kapha, and then it relates to your sun and your moon sign, your rising, which whether you've got lots of fire, whether you've got lots of earth, lots of water. So they're all relevant to whether somebody's more of a exercising, perspirating person, or they need to, just do it through, celery juice or whatever.
Yeah, I'm Pitta Kapha myself.
I can't remember what mine is now.
Yeah, cool. All right, very good. Any other questions?
Tom, about how long will the program last? And can you say a little bit more about what it entails as far as we meet once a week, or how that works?
Yeah, we're going to meet once a week, and in the beginning, for the next several weeks, we'll be doing the assessments and treatment plans, and those may involve a one-on-one meeting with people, so that I can ask them questions after I've read over their filling out of the questionnaire about their health history. So this is the first time we're doing it this way. You guys are early adopters, and it's great because we're going to learn a lot from doing it, and it'll get more and more refined as we go along. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Okay, very good. So coming back, let's see, in the chat, Sam Pitakaf. Okay. All right, cool. So coming back to the PowerPoint, let's see what we've got there. Screen share, PowerPoint. Okay, so the next section is about how to participate. It's a one-year program, and there are two options for registering for it. One option is you pay $501. It covers your individual testing and assessment. the review of your health history questionnaire, and the preparation of your individual treatment plan. Now, it's a time-consuming process, and I'll be doing most of them. And I have some of my top certified wisdom system experts who may be helping with that. And you may be asked to join a call to answer some questions. So this is happening as soon as possible after you register for the program. In addition, you pay $101 per month for 12 months. So the total cost of the year of weekly sessions is $1,722, but spread out like that if you do the payment 501 upfront. The other plan, oh, and by the way, if you register today, meaning in the next 24 hours, with option one, you'll receive two, not one, but two one-on-one private coaching sessions on topics of your choice from me. So that's a special urgency creator offer that if you want to do this, get in early and you'll get this extra bonus. So option two is a monthly payment program where there's no $501 upfront payment. It's just 12 payments of $51 per month for 12 months instead of having the upfront payment. And that comes to a total of $1,812 over the year, but it's spread out to make it easier to handle. So if you register today, you'll receive a one-on-one private coaching session on a topic of your choice for me. So at this option two, you get one coaching session if you register today. Now, an offer I'll make to you guys is that if you get 3 people to join this program under either option 1 or 2, you can have the program for free. So it's worth spreading the word because you could save a couple $1,000 here. So, any other questions? That's basically the content of what I wanted to share with you.
Oh, really, really appreciate it. And thank you, Sabrina, for sharing me getting me here.
Great. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to end the call here.